okay, we understand you're not an expert, but what is your
Yep.
feeling?
I think there's a lot of things that are inevitable because the very concept of prophecy, you're dealing with higher level magic. So, sixth grade, there was a Mr. Tankersley at Middle School, who was my core teacher, and on multiple occasions for us as 11-year-olds, played, if any of you remember, Sam perhaps because he's closer to my age, that documentary that had Orson Welles as the narrator that covered Nostradamus. It was made in I think
Yeah,
1981.
I remember that.
Uh, yeah, and so very spooky. We were scared the crud out of a lot of us, partly because it's Orson Welles, but it was discussing this guy who back hundreds of years earlier was calling things to a T. Three Hitlers or three Antichrists, three World Wars. But it was like this cartoonish presentation in an exoteric capacity. Well, of course, because you're giving it to kids. Nevertheless, that particular teacher, in hindsight, more than likely had interest in the occult or these issues and wanted to palatably share it to spice up education at that level in a public school. Now, at this time, knowing what I know about Nostradamus, who is a very adept occultist and Kabbalist, uh, you converted to Catholicism for the sake of being able to hide things as many did, but was utilizing deeper sciences or higher sciences or whatever the phrase that you want to use in order to be able to see things in the future, not unlike Saint John of Patmos, not unlike many of the prophets that are within. So I don't see it as just kind of myth or allegory or I think there are sciences that are tactically, purposefully suppressed to be able to prevent a whole variety of things that would cause a risk to the power structure, and yet are utilized by the power structure for a whole feast of guidance and dictation purposes. So one of the things, the questions that I had posed, and it's in notes, by the way, Johnny, I sent you the PDF right as we were going
Yeah.
on air, is question three out of the five questions that I had, or the 5 points that I put up, is World War III inevitable? I don't know, but just the past several years, I didn't know who Albert Pike was from Adam, even as of I would say maybe a decade ago. Even though there was this monument or the statue dedicated to him in the heart of Washington D.C., even though it was this pivotal figure during the World War, this very high-ranking Freemason, but was not in any of the textbooks that I grew up with, either K through 12 or college for my political science and social sciences undergrad, or in grad school. It just kind of it's for a certain particular type of audience of adepts. Well, with the internet, things it becomes a little bit more democratized, and you get a sense of not only who he was, but his book Morals and Dogma, of which I have a old 1920s published copy of, as well as this thing floating for many years of his supposed letter that he wrote, that's dated tellingly August 15th, 1871, which is exactly 100 years before August 15th, 1971, which I cited earlier as the date that Nixon took us off the gold standard. I don't know what sort of coincidence that entail, considering what going fiat has done,
Yeah.
turbocharging a whole feast of
Yes.
mandates. But
Yeah.
August 15th, 1871, he put this letter out to another high-level Freemason in Italy, Giuseppe Mazzini, stating that there will be three world wars. Now, there's been plenty of commentary online debunking that, partly because just the language used in the letter, he's using words like Zionism, which technically, kind of did not exist in a zeitgeist or public knowledge or press or political capacity then, as well as Nazi or Nazis, which certainly did not exist back in the 1870s. But nevertheless, so I was looking for the link in order to include in the stuff for today. I wasn't able to find it, but I did view something a few months ago from a commentator who said, yes, it was not Albert Pike who wrote that letter, but there were Hermeticists, there were Freemasons that did write it a couple of decades afterwards. It was just kind of attributed to Pike, his letter being supposedly in the British Museum and then not being in the British Museum was all kind of cover in order to send signals, in order to, like a boxer will signal his punches before or her punches before they land. So it's a sense of signaling their punches, revelation of the method, if you will, which Michael Hoffman II has discussed as a means by which the occult aristocracy will reveal things by necessity to the public through certain ways for a CYA or cover your ass basis or whatever their reasoning is for doing so. It was, in a sense, a revelation of the method attributed to Pike, who obviously was no longer around to answer for it, but in order to signal to the masses without attributing it necessarily to who exactly put it up. I need to read. It was a European commentator who traced it back to who actually did float that back in, I don't know, the 1910s or something, about the three world wars. But it's nevertheless, we see the pacing for like a third world war as we speak, just over the past week alone, of just traipsing into Syria as if you gave up your shopping cart at Gelson's and I just take it from you. Thanks, Sam. I'm gonna go about my day here. Just literally just like taking over. And I think the stat I saw earlier today is that Syria proper has been bombed more than the entirety of what Gaza had been over the prior 14 months, just within the past week. I mean, if that isn't tactical, if it's not playing off of a wider script,
unbelievable, dude.
Yeah. It's like so, and then just like the crew that came in, these terrorists or whatever you want to call them. The way that they're signaling towards seemingly Western sponsors or backers or whatnot. It falls under more or less the category what we described earlier. People kind of have a sense of what's going on, but they just feel powerless to say, yeah, I could share a meme over my disgust of it in social media, but I'm really kind of powerless more or less to do anything. It's kind of out of my hands. How much of this is inevitability? In part because of just our, let's say if I'm pronouncing it right, or insouciance, or our kind of hands-off, kind of come what may. It's out of my hands. It's from the detachment of political involvement by the public that it becomes an inevitability versus the will to power, the sense of no, enough people are awake to things, and you have crews that are dedicated to sniffing things out in all sobriety. And this guy that just shot the CEO in Manhattan. Okay, it's you're considered crazy for questioning even this acute narrative, because look, they caught him. Like he was leaving these signals. Why do you have to go to these dark rabbit holes where it seems like a pretty open and shut case? Well, because there's all these other aspects involving that particular firm, United Health, all the insider trading, very big dollars involved as far as stakes, not just with regard to that CEO, but if you understand a sense of monetary history or corporate history, and just the sense of what Sam said earlier, as far as like conspiracy happens. It's a necessity. It's synonymous with political science in many ways. Like if you have a sense of nuance based on your awareness of history, at the very least, you're going to be like, okay. Let alone just little things like this 26-year-old guy. Like immediately he has a manifesto. He didn't ditch his gun. He managed to get away through
the
one
whole
of the
thing
most
makes no sense.
Yeah, like it's the most densely populated space, Manhattan. He just gets away, but he's found like 280 miles away by somebody who's a wage worker in a McDonald's. And what did he or she in that McDonald's have to go off of? At most, you're going to have like a piece of paper or something digitally posted behind your cash register, near your cash register, that says like "Look out." for this person, or highly wanted or whatever. But what were the images up until then? It's this very limited sense of like he's got a hoodie on, or he's got a medical mask on, or this and that. Like, how adept are you as a wage worker at McDonald's to just be like, I'll take care of your order, okay, and then this is the 16th burger order over this past half hour. And by the way, that's more than likely the guy who shot the CEO in New York 3 days ago or 5 days ago. It's like, but it's like you can't, like, it's like the joke has to write itself. But just to think out loud about that is you're cynical, and you're just like, you're too much of a weird conspiracy nut. Because look, not everything has to be a fib. No, actually, if it's presented in a way that has just, like, at this point, the only thing missing from that story are just show tunes, just straight up like Colbert-like show tunes involving the assassination, this and greed in healthcare is
Can
bad.
I tell you
Like,
something funny? Do you know what the officer's name was? I saw somebody. Fry?
Really?
Yeah.
That's so funny.
All I'm saying is, if that was real, if she did a facial recognition off of that, they should hire her. Like, if she was busy working, or a guy,
like an old dude.
Yeah, if he was busy working but he caught that, they should use him at like casinos for facial recognition, because that's
what's really sad is you want to talk about a empire in decay is when like a 6-year-old guy having to work at McDonald's recognizes the guy who had to shoot a CEO at a insurance company. Like there's no story that embodies the U.S. economy more than the guy who discovered the healthcare assassination.
So are we going with he's MK Ultra? Did they just set him up? Is he a random guy?
I think, I don't know, man. I don't know why that kid. I mean, of course, everyone thinks it's not the same guy.
It's so damn. I think it's the same guy, but
his eyebrows grew out that quickly.
That doesn't bother me. I don't know. There's so many people can look. As someone who's taken a lot of photographs, a person just in different lighting can look drastically different. So those when people are like comparing ears and stuff, that doesn't hold any water for me. But I will say, that scene where he was, what did you make of the scene where they were bringing him in like they did? Like, I almost expected him to go like, "I'm a patsy." I mean, it was very similar to that
so
Kennedy
right,
footage
dude.
when they brought in Lee Harvey Oswald.
So like
weird,
1,
right?
2, 3, 1, 2, 3, step forward, kickball, step forward.
I wanted to know who the director was and how many takes it took to actually kind of get the choreography there. As such, and then just my thing to what you just said. There's the overt kind of, poster boy photos that gets female commentators or social media influencers. What is this kind of, he's ripped with a backpack on. He's ripped to the point of like cartoonishly ripped. I get it that you're young, your 20s and you work out. I'm no physical therapist or orthopedic surgeon or whatnot, but he's ripped and he's got these like 4 bolts in his lower back that they conspicuously show the x-rays of. And, speaking as someone from experience, being from West Asia, we're known for better or for worse for our hirsuteness, as Sam can relate. He's got a unibrow, monobrow, whatever you want to call it. Yeah. In recent photos, like over the past 48 hours or whatever, of David Muir sharing it on ABC or whatnot. It's fairly bushy and more or less kind of connected eyebrows, whereas these kind of grainy security photos, they're not connected. So like off of those sort of Columbo cap on splicing of issues, you will see like literally just sober critical thought floating either through questions posed or outright memes made. And that, I think, is one of the positives of the current times that we live in, is for this democratic sense of, I say democratic because if the meme is strong enough with its potency of message while being brief, the brevity is synonymous with a meme, then it really kind of checks this cornucopia of multi-million-dollar legacy corporate media, a redundancy or production, and opens up to critical inquiry into why, if it were to be a setup, what are the stakes involved for those that are setting it up? Like, like we need to be able to kind of, teach kids, in my opinion, to think in the sense of like 3 or 4D chess, to weigh things as if they're the investigator on the beat itself. But to answer your question, I don't know if he was solely acting alone right now. I don't know if there was a conspiracy in order to silence him and or to signal to other high-level, C-level executives across the healthcare supply chain, not just the insurance companies per se, but big pharma or hospital administration or this and that, of things to look out for. Well, there's a Feast and Fortune or Forbes or something on my feed from this morning stating that one of the things reverberating from the assassination of Brian Thompson, former CEO of United Health, is that you will see more executives not wanting that corner office. Oh, like,
oh wow!
Well, not only that, a lot of executives' names got taken off list. Yeah, they're done. Now, do you think as a CEO that I'm like passing these laws or whatever, or you think I want people to know that who I am? That's why they killed that guy. And now I bet you all these people have securities. All these CEOs are walking around.
Are you saying that that websites have stopped like
listing
publishing?
They stopped listing the executives and whoever's big deal. Because I mean, after that's how that kid found out. Probably. Imagine knowing who that is after a picture like that.
You'll be able to find it somewhere.
Oh yeah, if you look at
because Wall Street depends on that information. Who is this guy? So they're kind of caught. They can't just go, "Oh, we have a guy leading us." Well, who is it? Don't worry about it.
Yeah, no, that has to be public. Yeah, for public
yeah,
companies.
I mean, they're gonna find it, but they're freaking out instead, going, "Maybe we should think about our policies a little bit more."
Yeah, no.
Maybe
we're not gonna stop rat fucking people. We're just gonna take their names off the website. Yeah, that's great.
It's so. It's just like, but none of this makes sense because this kid has too much going for him.
He was rich.
To throw it all away like
bizarre.
that. Dude, you got jizz gutters, dog. I mean, you're like so shredded.
Actually, did you say MK Ultra? I mean, yeah, it feels like something like that.
Yeah, and it's just like, you have 130 IQ, which, Johnny, that's pretty high, right?
That's good, yeah.
130 IQ. You're valedictorian, and you've decided to keep the gun because what? You forgot how to 3D print another one? And
you keep your IDs. You keep your IDs.
And there's a million other kind of masks you wear. Like, your eyebrows are what we're looking for. You can't go
that middle image of him looking back. You don't know if he's screaming there or if he's singing a show tune.
Yeah, really.
Like that middle one, I predict will be that will be the cover of a punk album going forward over the next 4 years or so. It's just that one of him leaning over.
Do you know that picture right there where he has the mask off? That's when he was at a hostel or a hotel, whatever do you call that? But I guess he was flirting with the female, and that's what got him to take the mask off. If that's even real, you just killed someone. You want to flirt?
Yeah, I mean,
like, you want to take your mask off and be like, "Hey, what's up?" Like,
player's gonna play. I mean, can we see how hot she is and what her OnlyFans link is?
That's another thing is a guy like that doesn't need a McDonald's.
And do you think a guy like that is hitting on a chick? Or was it just
he had an undergrad in a technical, a STEM undergrad. I think it was like a software engineering undergrad and master's degree, and not from university behind Levitz, but from an Ivy League, from University of Pennsylvania. And he was a private school valedictorian, just all the stuff you guys were covering, 130 IQ, from a well-to-do family. Yes. And then a friend of mine sent me this quote-unquote manifesto, or like this very kind of long-winded letter that he had written dated December 3rd, like a stamp of December 3rd on his own kind of personal website. The prose of which, again, I don't know the guy from Adam. Granted, yes, it's a given that he is intelligent, but he's 26, and the the writing behind this post supposedly by him before he proceeds to scout out and kill a CEO is New Yorker level or New York Times Magazine level prose. So the writing is of the level of what seemed to be like a seasoned journalist or NGO worker or somebody at the very least like multiple degree holder who's worked in either journalism or in white paper writing for quite a while, because hence why they call it a manifesto. There, so just like certain things that were sticking out. I don't believe that in quote unquote overthinking. So for somebody to then respond to me in a chat room or in a social media comment thread saying, I think you're overthinking. No, because there's a track record of lying by the legacy corporate media, which in turn reads off of assigned scripts. So because of just that reality alone, whether the story affects me personally or not, it feeds the fodder for needing to step away and be able to think in a way. So we have like two sets of books mentally, like the set of books that take the public, take the media for what it says, and the other set of books saying, okay, there's incentives behind this being presented formally through CBS or NBC or MSNBS or BBC or NPR in the way that it is. What could possibly be involved? And then, even the alt media is increasingly kind of infiltrated to the point where it's getting to the point where people just go off of like friends of theirs on social media or in person who they trust to be able to think in a certain capacity or gather information to present to each other in a certain capacity, to have a sense of information commons, which takes time and it takes effort and it will take one's attention away from other things. And because it does, it's difficult for a mortgage owner with 3 kids and competitive issues to worry about at work, and a car oil leak that he has to take care of, to be able to commit to that, and hence why most folks just kind of shelve it. It's entertainment. What we just showed, like we're kind of it's given. It's your comics, and it makes sense to be able to splice that and make fun of the thing. But in the overall sense, like when my family sits at the 6 or 6:30 newscast, I say like this is no different for you folks watching this newscast as would be the football the football match between the Raiders and the 49ers, because it's all kind of entertainment in a sense. You are detached as far as you're going to get emotional over something. But it doesn't affect you directly, and thus it is most of this. Even Syria, it's like or Libya 13 years ago, or Gaza, as tragic as the images are over the past 14 months. Most people just kind of shelve it in that same attention shelf as they would, this particular episode of Friends or this reality show or. It doesn't directly affect them.
War
personally.
is a TV show to Americans. War is a TV show. It's something they watch. It's only people who go to fight war come back understand how crazy and destructive war is, right? So we're allowed to fantasize when you have all these like super progressives talking about how words are violence, because they are to them. Because they're allowed to live above the fray where nothing really affects them. And they can pass all the dumb, like Marxist laws they want to about crime because they live in a gated community and they don't have to worry about most of that stuff. It's just the truth, And the thing I find so interesting is the reaction of the establishment to the assassination versus, let's be honest, what most people are reacting to the assassination, which is, hey, dude, it sucks that somebody lost their life, but these people are scumbags, right? And a lot of them, and some people are like, what he does to people with their policies and approving and denying is the equivalent of murdering somebody. And how a lot of people are looking at this guy like, hey, man, like we're looking at him like a real life taxi driver.
How do you see it? How do you look at it? You think he did justice for everyone else?
If let's just say, are we talking if we assume what was presented was real?
Yeah, that guy had a back injury. He's upset. He finds out that for some reason the surgery didn't go through, and he finds out where this guy works, lives, waits for him, shoots him, and that's that. Let's go with that. No MK Ultra. The narrative.
I think it's tragic that someone lost their job, but I think that these CEOs have gotten out of control. They're out of control how they treat their clients, customers, the American people. That's what I think. And go on.
I think it goes deeper. I didn't know Brian Thompson from Adam. He was a couple of years younger than me, but more than likely it was every other guy on my football team back in high school, or on my track team, or in my debate team or whatever. Obviously ambitious. He was making $10 million a year, and in his early 50s. And without going through his resume or CV, I would only guess that he was high achiever for his whole life. One of the things that stood out to me after I saw the news piece, and then having a brief description on the news of who he was one has to be cautious of being too ambitious in this culture at this point. And that kind of maybe matches what the Fortune piece that I referenced earlier said. Is, this guy was seemingly in his own mind doing everything right, or everything in this kind of post-Ayn Randian over ambition, achievement oriented culture to reach the apex. Being a CEO of a multi-billion-dollar corporation is more or less it's the American dream, more so than just simply owning property or whatnot. Is the apex of being at a corporate pinnacle position. And yet, at that time of the morning, even, just a lot of folks are just getting ready to go to work. He's suit and tie at the Hilton in Midtown Manhattan, going to present at one of his corporations, at a conference where his corporation is a co-sponsor and one of the presenters to, literally checking off all the boxes for doing what the society deems as needs to be done. And either he becomes a sacrificial lamb or a fall guy, or just a very bad luck to have been wrong place, wrong time, discourtesy of a guy who's become unhinged. If we're going to go off of just the pure narrative, but he was conditioned, like Brian Thompson, is like every other guy as far as like doing everything right, or as told to do everything right, to overachieve and to be in a position in it. So from his purview, he's providing a service. His company's providing a service. Yes, they declined a lot of claims, but it's the nature of the beast, and he's producing for his shareholders and doing everything right. The timing of this killing, right before a Trump administration that ostensibly has a Robert F. Kennedy involved, and a crew coming in basically to supposedly quote unquote clean house, or to hold the CDC and the FDA and these medically tethered regulatory bodies to account. That also kind of stood out to me, is the sense of could this be tactical for optical reasons, given so what Sam said as far as everyone's like, well, that guy deserved it. These CEOs are raping us. Like it's yes, but to set that up as like a volleyball set for the collective zeitgeist consciousness, what is the spiking of that volleyball? Then is within 2 months from now, Robert F. Kennedy comes out and says, we're going to strip the entire CDC of X and Y, and we're going to hold these people to account for what the COVID claims were. This and that. It's like there's a lot of screenwriting, especially by neoconservatives. I've studied neoconservatives